Hello and welcome back to Live from Paris. I'm joined now by William Edwards from our business desk. Hello, William.
Hi, Lorna.
Right, so after day one of those all-important EU budget negotiations in Brussels, tell us more about where we stand.
Well, things have moved on a little bit, if not very much. Of course, no agreement yet in sight, but there has been a new proposal put forward by Herman Van Rompuy, the head of the European Council. He has kept the budget at the same size for now, apparently at 972 billion euros. Obviously, that may annoy some of those countries such as the UK, which want to see that number slashed, but nevertheless, there it is. It's what it's made up of has changed. There are winners and losers in this. The money has to come from somewhere, so the winners include the agricultural fund, agricultural subsidies. France will be keen on that because they are the biggest recipient of those funds. They don't want to see any reduction in that. And cohesion funds. That is money that goes to smaller countries that are in need of development, basically development money supporting those smaller countries. So a sop to them, as it were. Where's this money coming from? Well, let's take a look. The losers, you could call them, include the Connected Europe funds. That is for cross-border infrastructure, things like gas pipes and broadband connections between nations, small business support, research funds and foreign aid. Now, the top three of those are really, unfortunately, the things where growth was supposed to come from in this EU budget. So, to help basically cohesion between the EU nations, those elements that are supposed to be helping growth are being chipped away at.
Okay, and there is another sticking point as well, isn't there, involving, of course, the UK?
Yes, this is the UK's famous rebate agreed by Margaret Thatcher in the 80s. They get 3.6 billion euros every year back from what they pay to the EU. Great deal for UK taxpayers. But not everyone's happy, as Jade Barker explains.
He was among the first to arrive in Brussels, and British Prime Minister David Cameron set the tone for what is expected to be a bitter fight over the EU's next budget.
We're going to be negotiating very hard for a good deal for Britain's taxpayers and for Europe's taxpayers, and to keep the British rebate.
Keeping the rebate as a red line for the UK government. First negotiated by Margaret Thatcher in the 80s, the cashback is meant to reflect the fact that the UK receives less subsidies for its more agricultural sector than other countries. Last year, the rebate amounted to 3.6 billion euros, but a draft budget proposed by EU President Herman Van Rompuy could see it reduced by some 25%, costing Britain around 1 billion euros a year. Cameron has vowed he won't back down. The issue is not just financial, but political.
David Cameron is in a very tough situation in the sense that there are many members of his party, but also many voters that are not willing to compromise on this occasion as they were in the past, especially because voters in the UK are feeling the pinch of domestic cuts.
Britain's rebate is essentially paid for by other EU countries, which share the cost proportionally. However, due to rebates on the rebate enjoyed by Germany, Austria, the Netherlands and Sweden, France and Italy have been left to pick up the biggest share of the tab. French President François Hollande has slammed countries seeking rebates, saying it goes against the idea of a unified Europe. With the UK looking like it won't back down on the issue and other countries up in arms, the debate over rebate looks set to be a fiery one.
Well, those negotiations will continue later today, but what's been the reaction from the markets so far this morning?
Well, the European markets are just opening up. Hard to say, really. It's probably not really any reaction to the lack of decision at the EU budget meeting. You can see things lightly up there, but low volumes of trade. Let's take a look at how things are in Asia as well. Of course, Thanksgiving in the US, meaning that markets there have been closed on Thursday, and also Tokyo is closed. But nevertheless, things a bit more strongly up at the end of Asian trading.
Okay, well, one thing that the markets are going to be keeping an eye on today, this Friday, is the strength of consumer spending in the US, and there's a special reason for that, isn't there?
That's right. It's called Black Friday in the US. It's a day of special offers, basically, called Black Friday because traditionally it's when retailers manage to get into the black for the year as a whole, back into profit. It's being affected this year, of course, by the events of Hurricane Sandy, which may have a negative effect on the amount of spending. Of course, people won't be focusing quite so much on good deals and discretionary spending, but these people have been camping out. You can see they are hoping to get a good deal, camping out to be the first in line to get some of these deals, and already actually shopping has now started in the US, some of it on Thanksgiving night itself. Barely had the turkey been digested than people were getting out to get a bargain.
Wow, and fighting against the effects of that tryptophan in the turkey that makes you feel sleepy, apparently. Well done, them. We're going to move back to here in France now, because there's been a financial scandal at one of the country's best-known universities.
Yes, this is Sciences Po, officially known as the Paris Institute of Political Sciences. Everyone calls it Sciences Po. It's the sort of, I suppose, Oxford equivalent in France. Back in April, its director, Richard Decroix, he died of heart failure in New York, to shock and sadness here in France, obviously. Now, since then, auditors have been looking through the finances of the university, and they haven't liked what they found. They have published a report citing anomalies in accounts paid to academics based on how many hours they put in, abusive use of credit cards, toxic loans relating to real estate, and generally weak internal and external controls. It also said the director's salary was not transparent and too high at over €500,000.
Okay, well, we'll see what results from that. But we're going to stay here in Europe now, because elections are taking place this coming Sunday in the Spanish region of Catalonia, and they could put the region on the path to independence. One reason for the possible split is the economy, with Catalonia accounting for 20% of Spanish GDP. Some here feel they're not getting a good deal from the federal government. Here's more.
We're driving down a motorway in Catalonia with Robert. He's a campaigner for independence for this region, and he's chosen a rather unusual method. He's stopped paying road tolls, which he considers unjust taxes from Madrid.
Hello, I don't want to pay.
The toll booth worker takes out a notepad while Robert posts his civil disobedience, as he puts it, on Twitter.
The lady makes a note of my registration plate, then she lets me go. You see, we end up knowing each other. Thank you very much.
Robert accuses Madrid of stealing from the Catalans through the central tax system.
There's a massive tax discrimination between Catalonia and Spain. 80% of the motorways and fast roads with tolls in Spain are here in Catalonia.
As Spain's crisis continues to bite, arguments like these are gaining momentum. Artur Mas, the favourite to win the region's election, has promised a referendum on independence. He says Catalonia loses €16 billion to the rest of Spain through taxes.
We would be the 7th country in the European Union. We have a sufficiently strong economy to try to have our own state and to be able to manage a little bit better.
Not everyone agrees. If Catalonia breaks with Spain, it would also have to leave the EU, says this economist.
We would have to pay customs duties and leave the euro. We would lose the protection of the European Central Bank, and the results would be disastrous.
Catalonia is a wealthy region. With €200 billion in GDP, it represents a fifth of Spain's revenue.
A report there from our correspondents in Spain. Well, thank you very much indeed, William, for that look at all today's business news. That's all from us for now. Many thanks for watching, and do stay tuned. There's more news headlines coming up with Claire Murphy right after the international weather next here on France 24.